Hey, what is going on everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario, and today I'm going to be showing you all, if you have a jailbroken PS3 already running custom firmware, how you can QA toggle your system and then downgrade it to another, hopefully another custom firmware. You can downgrade it to other firmwares if you wish to, but the goal here is to downgrade to another custom firmware for whatever reason of your choosing. So to do this, we're going to need a flash drive. We're going to need our PS3, of course, jailbroken. This tutorial is going to assume that you have the basic understanding of how to navigate a jailbroken PS3, and we're going to need a computer on hand to download and copy over a few files. One thing that is noted is this is only for jailbroken PS3s. That means if you're using HAN, if you're using PS3 HIN, or if you're on stock firmware or even just hybrid firmware HFW, you will not be able to use this method. This is specifically for jailbroken systems running custom firmware. So right now I am on a 4.85 custom firmware, and I'm going to downgrade to a 4.84 custom firmware. So to do this, again, let's move over to the PC and let's get started. The links for these two websites I'm going to show you will be down below in the description. The first one is going to be for a download to QA toggle by Habib. This is going to make toggling QA really easy to do, and on top of that, we will need to do this in order to downgrade our firmware. So one thing to note is that this will write to your PS3's EEPROM, so as he says here, use at your own risk. But once you are ready to download it, just click the download link and save it somewhere. The next link is going to be to an online MD5 checker I use, just so you can check the custom firmware that you are going to be downgrading to. Now here you should have your Habib QA toggle package file, as well as any custom firmware which is on a lower firmware of your choice. So this is going to be completely up to you what you want to flash over. But then you'll also need a flash drive. Now my flash drive, it's a 16GB flash drive I've already formatted to FAT32. If it is not FAT32 when you are doing this, you are going to need to back up any data you care about off your flash drive, right click, format, and then format it in here to FAT32. We're also probably going to need to rename this file depending on what firmware you download, so make sure in whichever operating system you're using that you are showing file name extensions. So for the package file, this is easy enough. Copy it, go to the root of your flash drive, and paste it right there. For your custom firmware, copy it out, go to your USB drive, and create a new folder in here called PS3, all uppercase, and create a new folder in here called Update, again all uppercase, and paste it in here. Give it a few seconds to copy over. Now, one thing we're going to do before we go back to the PS3 is we need to MD5 check our custom firmware. It's recommended to do this just so you make sure that the custom firmware you downloaded is not a bad download and will not brick your system. So what we can do is get the MD5 hash. Now this depends. Whichever custom firmware you choose, the author should provide a MD5 hash to check with, whether it be in a text file, whether it be on the web page you downloaded it from, or if it's baked into the file name itself right here. But since this is baked into the file name, I'm just going to take this giant mishmash of numbers and letters. If I can highlight it, I'm going to copy this out and then go over to the MD5 checker that I provided or one of your choice. When you're choosing a file to check, make sure you check the one that's already been copied to your flash drive. So throw that in, give it a few seconds to check, and then you can also paste in the hash that you already have right here in your comparison. And once that's done, you should get a matching hash. And if you do not, that means there is something wrong with your custom firmware download. So delete it and re-download it from wherever you got it from and check it again. But since this is all good on the flash drive, we can exit out of this and continue on. Rename the custom firmware from whatever it is called to PS3 updat.pup. It must be exactly this, no changes. And once you're all ready to go ahead and safely eject your flash drive and then move it over to your PS3. Over at your PS3, plug your flash drive into any of the USB ports and then go over to install packages from USB, and we're going to choose the Habib QA toggle. Thankfully that is a really fast install. And now when you go back, you need to launch this, and all it's going to do is go to a black screen and then kick us back to the XMB. Once you've been kicked back here, it is recommended to reboot your system. So go ahead, turn off your system, and then turn it back on. Once your system reboots, move all the way over to your settings, scroll all the way down so you highlight network settings. Do not enter it, but you need to hold down this button combination on your controller. L1, L2, R1, R2, down on the D-pad, and L3. It might take you a few tries, but if you press them all at the same time, you should get these three settings to pop up: Eddy Viewer, debug settings, and install package files. And if these three settings pop up when you do that, that means your system has been QA flagged and is ready to be downgraded. So now you can scroll all the way up to System Update, go to Update via Storage Media. Your custom firmware of choice should be there. Go ahead, let it copy over, and it's going to then reboot your system and install it like a regular update. Now, if you're using a Rebug custom firmware and you're trying to downgrade, you won't be able to check your toggle QA flag due to debug settings right here. So when you try the button combination, you will not be able to generate the other settings. But what you can do is go to your Rebug toolbox. If you do not have that, go to Package Manager, install package files, PS3 system storage, and it is already built into Rebug. But go ahead and launch Rebug Toolbox if you are on Rebug firmware. Scroll all the way over to the right, enable toggle QA flag, and then go over and either quit or restart your system. Since we need to restart anyways, you can just restart your system from here. When you reboot on Rebug, you still will not be able to use the button combination, but you can double check your work by going to Rebug Toolbox. And when you go back over to the Utilities section, your toggle QA flag should show as enabled. So that was just a little aside for anybody trying to downgrade from Rebug custom firmware. Let's continue on. Now, as you can see, the system has rebooted and it is installing the custom firmware. So just give it a few minutes, let it do its own thing and downgrade. Alright, so now my system has rebooted, and as you can see, there are several different changes to the XMB, meaning that I am on a different firmware. And if you have completed this, then congratulations, you should be on at least a lower custom firmware. So that is how you downgrade your jailbroken system. Anyways, this is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, a like would absolutely be appreciated, and if you didn't like it, a dislike is fine as well too.